Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you're returning, thank you as always for your support. I appreciate you more than I can say. I have some new fall crafts today, so let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting. DIY number one. I hit up the Dollar Tree. I'm not going to be using all of these, but I wanted to show you a few things that I picked up. They have these really cute push pins. They're like pearls and then some colored ones as well. And then these I thought were super sweet. They're actually puffy, not puffy, but 3D stickers. This is an iron-on decal, which I thought would look really cute on a t-shirt. And then I am going to be using this for this project, but it's around a sign. I had not seen these in the Dollar Tree before, and they've got the calendars in. So these are the three that I picked up. There were other designs, but they were more like inspirational messages as opposed to farmhouse, which tends to be the slant that I take on my channel. So these are all of the different designs that they have. I absolutely love that cow. I think she is so sweet. And I'm trying to figure out which of these designs I want to use for this project. It was kind of a tough choice. And at first I thought I was going to be using the one in the calendar that I'm holding right now. You could see I was kind of pointing to another one I was thinking of. But, it took some deliberation. But I was thinking this one largely because I was worried that the one with the white background might be too see-through. And then I was like, oh, well, you know what? I could use the back of the sign, make it a two-sided sign. So maybe that would be the way to go after all. Excuse me. So isn't that pretty? That's going to be beautiful for Christmas time. So at any rate, I finally opted for the Count Your Blessings. Went ahead and just double checked to make sure that it was all going to fit on the surface of the sign and I wasn't going to lose too much of the design. Went ahead and tore that page out. I did trim off that little jagged edge so that I would have, sorry, I'm interrupting myself, but I thought Hello October was super cute too, but we're still in August, so I wasn't quite ready to go there yet. But definitely a beautiful design. So making sure that this is going to kind of line up with my round here. And obviously there are some areas where it doesn't quite cover the round, but we're going to take care of that. So I went ahead and traced it around the edge, and I'm going to cut just outside of that tracing line because I want to make sure that it's going to fully cover it, and I know any overhang I can sand off later. And so now as I'm applying it there, I was realizing that my image it was bleeding off the page, so there was a big gap. Went ahead and painted the round with Adirondack white chalk paint. I was thinking this might help. And then I'm laying it down on the wet paint, actually. I had originally thought I would paint it and then Mod Podge it, and then I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I can just set it down right in the paint. I was also hoping it would alleviate some of the issue I tend to get with I want to say warping, wrinkling of the page. And it wrinkled a tiny bit, but not the way that it normally does when I use Mod Podge. I guess because the glue wasn't quite as wet, but it was tacky enough that it was able to grab the page, and I got a really good seal on it. So I'm just making sure it's all pressed down. One thing I did notice, the calendar part on the opposite side of the page was starting to see through it. So I was not real thrilled about that. As it dried, it did lighten up a little bit, but yeah. So here I'm just taking some sandpaper and sanding off the part that was hanging over so that I've got a nice clean edge all the way around. And then you can see how the gourd and the pumpkins are kind of cut off. Because of the way the calendar was designed. They were designed that way. And that didn't occur to me when I was picking out the image, but I ended up with a solve for it. So I'm picking out a ribbon, and I had always planned to do a ribbon at the top left corner to kind of balance out the design here. And I was looking at first I thought I wanted a green ribbon, but the one I had, you saw there, it was a little too, I'm going to say blingy. I wasn't into the gold. I wanted something that was going to be a little more rustic. I just felt like it was going to match the image a little bit better. So I have this burlap type ribbon, and I'm going to just create a bow with a couple of loops on either side. And then I'm going to kind of pinch it in the middle, make sure that it's going to be the right size for what I'm going for here. And I know that I want long tails, but I was trying to decide how I was going to fashion those. And so I went ahead and wrapped it around the middle to kind of hide the fact that this is a fake bow, right? It's not a fake bow, but I'm not tying a knot in the middle of it. So just covering that up, I'm going to trim that length off, and then I'm just going to use my hot glue to get that nice and secured. I'm kind of squeezing the glue up underneath, and then I'll add a little bit more just to make sure it's secured. You can see I've got my scissors on it, just letting it cool, making sure that it's staying put while I figure out the tail situation. So my idea was to use the tails to cover up the parts of the image that are cut off from the calendar design, right? Because I don't want my gourd to look cut off on the right, and the pumpkins are clearly kind of cut off at the bottom there. So I figured I could wrap the tails of my bow around the piece and connect them in such a way that they'll look hopefully like they're flowing naturally, but also so they're going to hide those little imperfections, so to speak. I started to go ahead and dovetail that, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to wait until I have this secured and where I want it, just so I make sure that I've got the length of the ribbon that I need and want to be using. So I continued to play with it a little bit more to get it how I wanted it. I wanted it to be a little bit interesting also, while making sure that I was covering everything up. I didn't want it to, I don't know, I want it to look natural and flowy, but also pretty. And yeah, so I just continued to mess with that for a little bit. But then I wanted to also make sure I was putting it where the bow needed to be. I was originally thinking I would glue that center piece down, and then I decided, you know what, I really need to have it attached to the bow, so that when I put it down, I am lining the bow up where it needs to be, because the bow is going to be the most important part up at that top left corner and that focal point. So I went ahead and secured the tails to the back of the bow, and now I'll go ahead and set it down and get it where it needs to be. Just a generous amount of glue, and we'll hold that down until it's nice and cool, and then I'll be able to go back to my tails and secure those. So I ended up not curling them as much as I originally thought I would, and that was largely because when I did that, it wasn't giving the coverage on the I'm going to keep calling it an imperfection. It wasn't covering the imperfection the way that I needed it to. So I opted to do less twisting of the ribbon and kind of let it fall the way that it would naturally. And I still think that this is really pretty. Went ahead and dovetailed that end, and just making sure, and I used just a teeny tiny little bit of the hot glue to secure it in the places where I needed it secured, because I didn't want it to be oozing through the ribbon, and I didn't want it to be a big glob. So I was just very judicious with my hot glue. And now I'm going to do the other tail and making sure that I'm covering up the bottom part. Again, just a tiny little bit of glue where I need it to get it to provide that coverage. And this kind of frames the entire piece as well. I don't know, I think that this turned out super sweet. I'm gonna go ahead and dovetail that other end, just make sure it's nice and finished. But I love this. It is got a simple beauty to it, in my humble opinion. So now we're gonna flip it over. I'm gonna do something for a hanger. I was trying to decide what I wanted to do because, of course, my bow where I glued it down covered up the one hole completely. So I had to kind of come up with another way of doing this. So this is the original twine that I took off the piece at the beginning. And I just tied a knot in the end of it there. And I'm going to literally put some hot glue in the hole and tuck the knot into that hole. So it's going to create a hanger that I don't know. I thought it looked pretty cool the way that I ended up doing it. And now I've got a two-sided sign, right? So if you have a glass door, for example, and you want to hang this on the glass door, you're going to have a pretty sign on both sides, not just on the one. So I went ahead and tied another knot, put some glue in that hole that's covered up on the other side, and just pressed that knot down inside that hole with the glue, and trimmed off the ends. And that does it. This piece is all done. I really love this, and I hope you like it too, but let me know what you think in the comments. DIY number 2. Okay, this is a 3D wreath that I have had in my stash for a while. It's from the Dollar Tree. I haven't seen them in a while, but they might still have them. And I am just taking the smallest of those rings. I just popped it apart at the seam, which was honestly quite easy. And I've got these wooden beads. They're just natural wooden beads. I'd gotten them off of Amazon, and I'm going to add them on to my wreath. I only want them covering half of the wreath form, so this worked out just perfectly because it's got those spots. I don't know if you can kind of see them there. They're like these little loopy knobs, I don't even know what to call them. They're little nubby things that stick up off the wreath, and it's where they connected for the 3D wreath form. And I'm using them kind of as stoppers for preventing my little wooden beads to go any further than halfway around this wreath. So getting them all lined up on here, and as I got towards the end, I am going to use some hot glue to get that last bead secured, but just making sure that I've got a good idea of how many are going to go on here. So I added that last bead, securing it with hot glue, and then I'm going to quickly add on 2 other beads before that glue dries, and I'm going to tuck in the end into that hot glue and just make sure it's nice and secure. Now I'm going to be creating another bow with that same ribbon that I used in the first project. This time I'm going to have 3 loops on either side, so 6 total little bow loops. And I'm going to do something similar with the center of the bow, but I'm going to be using wire first to tie this off. So just getting it to where I need it, I'll cut off that end. I'm going to have shorter tails for this particular bow, but that is really all that this one is going to need, and you'll see shortly. So using some of my floral wire, I'm going to wrap it around the middle a few times until I've got it nice and snug. You could also use a chenille stem. That's what I usually use for my bows. But for this one, I knew I was going to be using the floral wire, and I just opted to use the floral wire for the bow this time. So I am wrapping another small piece around, and I'm going to fasten it in the back with that floral wire again. I'm going to leave it relatively loose. A lot of times when I make bows like this, I will tie it and make it nice and tight and secure. I decided I wanted it to be a little bit more poofy in the middle there, so I did not, well, clearly you saw I didn't tie it down. I opted to secure it with that wire in the back. Now I have a whole bunch of my fall florals. These are from the Hobby Lobby. I had gotten them off season when they had a whole bunch of them that they were trying to get rid of. They were originally, I think, $10.99 a stem, and they were 90% off. So I got them basically for like $1.10 or something, right? $10.99, a dollar, yeah, $1.10. So fantastic deal. I was thrilled, and so I stocked up on a whole bunch of the fall flowers, and I'm excited to be able to be putting them to use now. So true to my style, I am pulling them apart so that I can manipulate them and use them the way that I want them. Just removing some of the tags and the excess paper that they're wrapped with, and getting them to where I want them and what looks good to my eye. So I'll continue to pull them apart. I'm just going to layer them. I'm sure that you've heard me say in the past that I am visual. I have to see it kind of laid out before I'm willing to commit. But I did get it all situated in a way that made me very happy. Symmetrical again, as per usual. And once I was set with that, I'm going to grab that floral wire again, and we're going to start securing these stems to the wreath. Right now, I'm just making sure that they're kind of bent in the right way. These are not wire all the way up. It's only just that base stem, so to speak. So I just wanted to make sure that they were all going to be going in the direction that I needed them in. Just going to make sure that they are all looking the way that I want them once more. And then I'll grab up that wire. So as you are creating things like this, anybody can do this. This is not hard. Just take your time and play with it until it's the way that you want it, and then you can go ahead and secure it all and make it permanent, right? That's the great thing about crafting. You can make it the way that you want it, use the colors that you want to use. If you want to paint those beads, you could paint the beads, right? This is simply for inspiration. I was inspired by something that I saw online. I think it might have been on the Kirkland's website. I'm not 100% positive, but I had been inspired by it, and I decided that I was going to give this a shot. So going to just secure all these down with wire, layering them over, and then just manipulating them to where I want them, making sure that I'm bending the wires within the picks to get the flowers to lay where I want. And once that was all done, I am ready to secure my bow. So I'm just using the wire from the bow to twist it right into the middle there. I'll twist that until it's nice and secure, and then tuck that floral wire down in so it's not going to poke anything or anyone. And I just think that this is absolutely beautiful. I am not dovetailing the ends this time. I'm just going to cut them at an angle. You certainly could dovetail them if you wanted to. And then I'm going to be all set and ready to make a little hanger for it. So I'm going to take advantage of that little loopy thing on the wreath form that I was talking about before, that was being used as kind of a stop for my beads. I am using a piece of that twine from the hanger that I cut off for the first project, and I basically tied a knot to make a little loop. I tucked it through that hole there, and I'm just going to secure it, and it'll be a nice little hanger there. And I'm sorry if you hear the dogs in the background, but let me know what you think of this one. And now it's time for a shout out timeout. Beautiful, Darlene. This is such a pretty centerpiece. That's awesome. And nice rose. I love the scroll work on the welcome. Just so pretty. And cute Kathy. We've got some gingerbread coming. Fantastic. Thank you all so much for sharing. I would love to give you a shout out as well. If you have interest, just send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 3. All right, this is a little give thanks cutout. This was from a little pack of, I think there were 5 or 6 of them in there that I got from the Dollar Tree. I also have this old calendar that I'm going to steal some of that sunset shading and coloring from. I've got a Dollar Tree frame right there, and then that other piece of cardstock is also from the Dollar Tree. I think it came in a pack of 3 sheets, something like that. So I decided I didn't want to waste too much of my parchment paper on this little give thanks sign. So I tore a corner out, and now I'm going to use my Java chalk paint to just give one good coat of paint to my give thanks sign. And I am dog sitting my sister's pup, who happens to be Sammy's brother, and they're kind of walking around all over the place at the moment. So I apologize for any background noise and the rattling of Sammy's collar and their little nails on my floor. We do what we can. But I've taken the frame apart. I noticed that this corner was starting to come apart a little bit, so I'm just giving it a little bit of help with some hot glue, just making sure that that's nice and secure before we move on. And then I decided that I wanted to paint this the same color as the give thanks. I don't know, I just wanted it to all be kind of uniform, and the color was kind of coming off in a couple of areas, so it had some like little ivory marks on it. And I just wanted it to be nice and clean and complimentary. Then you might have seen me with the insert from the frame. I was cutting out the cardstock so that it's going to be the same size to fit inside the frame. And now I've got the cover from the other calendar. And the reason I cut off the sunrise sunset, it wasn't because the color was going to be in the way, but there was it was a little bit embossed. So it was throwing, it was marking the other side. And I wanted to make sure I'd steered clear of those marks. Now, I know it's really hard to see on the video for whatever reason. I could see the pencil lines just fine in person, but I essentially drew a pumpkin that I am now cutting out. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the darker orange area and draw more of a taller pumpkin. So I've got my little squat pumpkin, and now I've got a taller pumpkin, and just going to go ahead and cut that one out as well. Little puppy nails clicking on the floor. Once I had that all cut out, I kind of took a look to see what they were going to look like side by side. Okay, I'm not sure why I'm taking so much time here. Looking at them side by side, I did trim down that little stem a little bit more. I decided I wanted the taller one on the left, but my colors aren't matching up. Well, they are matching up, but too closely. I want that yellow on the left side of my squat pumpkin. So what do? I cut out another pumpkin. I also decided I might want it a little bit shorter. So I'm just kind of taking a look at where I want it to land with my larger pumpkin. And the reason that I did this and that I wanted the yellow on the left side was just to give it a little bit more dimension, a little bit more definition, so that you could tell 100% the difference between the two little pumpkins. So I went ahead and got that cut out, and then I was going to use my Java chalk paint once again to paint the little stems. You'll see that in a second. I'm not sure why I felt the need to show you so much of me cutting these pumpkins. But again, this is such a simple, easy thing to do. Anybody can do this. Honestly, anybody can do it. So just using a little brush, I ended up having to give it a couple of coats of the chalk paint because the paper, it was a little bit slick. It has a gloss coating on it, and so the paint wasn't sticking as well as it might to a matte finish. So anyway, it all worked out well, and now I'm going to get them all lined up. I have my little double-sided puffy tape. I'm not even sure what you call this, but it's double-sided puffy kind of adhesive. So I'm going to apply some of that to each of my pumpkins and then apply them to my cardstock that I had trimmed down to be the right size for the frame. Just removing the film off of the back side of it, setting that down, and then trying to figure out where I want this so I know where to stick those little things, because I don't want them to interfere with the other pumpkin. I don't want it to, I want it to be the same level because I need to be able to fit it into the frame. If it were more like a shadow box, then maybe I would do an extra high layer of the, I don't know if I'm making any sense. I might have let it stick up off of the first pumpkin. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying, but I need to keep it relatively flat. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my give thanks. This is a little bit minimalistic, but I love this piece. Now, if you find that it is too simple a design, you can certainly add a bunch more pumpkins. You could add some scroll work design to it. You could, if you have pretty stamps, you could use stamps to create additional design on here, whatever makes your eyes happy. But I opted for minimal. So just use some hot glue, secured my give thanks, and I'm going to pop it into the frame. And that is really going to be it for this one. Just making sure I've got everything nice and secured. And again, this is for inspiration. You do you. Do what makes your heart happy. But I love this piece. I hope you do too. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the project, remember to give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know which one was your favorite. And until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.